Welcome to the channel. My name is Mia Viva, and I am the coach that helps you after you hit rock bottom on your redemption journey back to God and into leadership. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about clarity and what is the cost of not having it. When I didn't have clarity, and I still don't have clarity on a lot of things, nobody has complete 100% clarity. But I remember not having clarity took me to a place where I was just so lost. It really does affect you in ways that you don't even realize. Okay. And I want to really just highlight some of these ways that you may or may not realize is happening or is showing up the way that it is because of your lack of clarity. Right. And that's also, that's a different level of clarity. It goes into the, you don't know what you don't know. And that's all around clarity. First thing is, when you don't have clarity of who you are, your identity, that causes major mental and internal strife. You have created an identity for yourself based on what? Based on who your caregivers told you were, based on what society said was cool or was acceptable. So you tried to form yourself into that. And then you get to a point where you realize, that's not true. That's not true. That's not who I am. So from the very beginning, we get placed on a path where clarity kind of escapes us on levels that truly serve us. Yeah. So on a very micro level, I'm going to talk about today. That's kind of more macro. That's kind of more, self-actualization and going into that whole realm. But I'm going to keep it very micro. And there's a few facts. I have notes here. So if you see me looking down, but the first thing that I know in my experience was when I didn't have clarity, I got a lot of headaches and I lost a lot of sleep. So you're up at night. And that's one of the main questions that transformation coaches ask is, what keeps you up at night? Because that's the main pain point. If something has enough power to keep you up at night, it truly is something that is eating at your soul. And the headaches, they would always be in the front. So I guess that's what a tension headache. But it came from lack of clarity. It came from lack of clarity, but the huge desire to have the clarity, to be clear, to have the direction and know the path. And so the lack of clarity, really, it takes away your sleep, which from a spiritual speaking sense, we get a lot of information in our dreams. So you imagine you're not getting sleep, so you can't get the information that you need to get that wants to come to you through your dreams. So you're just going to stay stuck without the clarity that you're so desperately wanting. And you're going to have a headache, which then leads you to sometimes having to take medicine, which is a whole nother animal. Okay. Another way that not having clarity affects your life is damaged relationships. And all of these stack upon each other. No one thing is isolated. You have damaged relationships because you don't see sometimes your role in a relationship or someone else's role and or who they are, because the lens that you have for them is masking over the reality. And the lack of clarity that you have for yourself oftentimes does seep in to the quality of the relationships that you have. So for instance, if I'm really frustrated with myself and I know I'm not in purpose and I'm angry and I'm trying, well, I'm going to be frustrated all the time. If I'm a parent, that's going to come out in my parenting. If I have a spouse, guess what? They're going to get it. And it's not that you're going at them on purpose, but if somebody says something to you that triggers and you have all of these emotions inside of you from the lack of clarity, guess what's going to happen? You're going to blow. And sometimes things are said that cannot be taken back. And so that's how the lack of clarity functions in damaging relationships. And we don't understand how did we get here? How did we, and this is the two examples I gave are parent in parenting and in partnerships. Because like I said, you say one thing, that one thing can never be taken back. It can be explained, it can be addressed, it can be forgiven, it can be apologized for, but it will not ever go away. The next thing is lack of clarity has broken many dreams, broken dreams. The lack of clarity and its ability to provide broken dreams for people is essentially a soul crusher, and it is a purpose inhibitor. When you get to a point where you realize your dreams have not been materialized or manifested, you give up hope. And it takes a lot of internal strength, mental strength, spiritual strength to get to a point that can bring you back to wanting to fulfill dreams after you've gone through so many years of just not believing it's possible. So the lack of clarity of who you are in your identity, lack of clarity of your purpose and how your gifts tie into that purpose, which then gives you a level of fulfillment. Dreams not actualized, dreams not manifested. And so you're living life just routine. Nothing excites you. You don't have anything to hope for. Your dreams are gone. And it all came from lack of clarity. And oftentimes it's not explained this way. It's like, oh, get clear on what you want to do. So who's going to help me do that? Right? It's like when we're thrown into undergrad at 17 years old and we're expected to pick a major that's supposed to serve us for the rest of our lives. What? I'm just trying to go to this party over here. So I think, it's now shifted into a time where we really have to dissect what these things mean and how instrumental and massive they are. Like you look at something like clarity and you're like, okay, clarity, okay. But until it's really broken down and you're able to see like, whoa, that's true. That does affect that. And that does affect, clarity is massive. Okay. Next thing, lack of clarity will bring you complete spiritual chaos. And a very personal testimony is in my lack of clarity on who I serve and why I'm here, I allowed myself to get into practices and belief systems that ultimately were not of the Most High God. It is what it is. I'm gonna say it plain and simple. And I even attracted other people who, because of their lack of clarity, or maybe it was their clarity. I don't know. My journey. I'm a child of God. I'm here to serve God. Yeah. And I started doing practices. Now let me make this clear right now. I wasn't worshiping Satan and they're like, no, we wasn't getting down like that ever. Like I've not ever not acknowledged God. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's certain practices and certain things and tools that are not used to serve God how God wants to be served or how God tells us to serve God. Okay. So when you are not clear, when you allow current circumstances to alter and shift your clarity, when you get into a state of confusion, you will oftentimes allow an outside influence to sway you to things that spiritually jack you up. And that's where I went And that's why I coach people on their redemption journey back to God, because in that spiritual chaos, you get taken to a place where it's extremely unfamiliar to you and you don't know how you got there until you get on your journey back to God and you see that you played a massive role in how you got there because you went out of alignment to your most high spiritual purpose. So lacking clarity can cost you greatly. First and foremost, it will cost you greatly when it affects you spiritually. The next one is lack of clarity costs you your peace. Like I said, you lose sleep, you have headaches, you're always constantly thinking about this thing or these things. And until you have clarity, you can't have a plan. You can't have a map. You can't have a place where you know your next steps will land. You can't make any way out. So there is no peace in that. There's no peace in confusion. The last one I identified is the lack of clarity can absolutely affect you health-wise and your weight. And this comes through greatly in blind spots. And that's one of the major things. Blind spots, curses, purpose, gifts. Those are a lot of the things that I coach on, 5 pillars of power. But your health and your weight. People who go through a very traumatic experience and then don't realize that they're still depressed, it will show up physically, right? And in that process, the lack of clarity shows up of one, not even realizing you're depressed. Like I was depressed for 5 years after the traumatic experience that I experienced when I had my child and what happened in the weeks following. But for the past 5 years, I didn't realize I was in a depressed state, right? Didn't have clarity on that. There's ways that it shows up, the way that you dress, your weight, because you're seeking happiness or some type of refuge in food, the wrong food. You don't value your body because you're not going to put something in your body that doesn't nourish your body. You're looking for stuff that makes you feel good, the dopamine, right? But it's a period of confusion and just doing what can help you during that time. So the lack of clarity on who you are, maybe it's even, blind spots of the stories that you told yourself. Maybe it's blind spots and the lack of clarity of childhood experiences that have just stuck with you for your entire life. And you've always been overweight, or you always, you just given up on getting your dream body. Like it's all related, and it's all related to a lack of clarity. Because I'm gonna tell you one thing, every time that I've lost a lot of weight, it was a decision, and it was a decision based on clarity. This recent time, I have gotten into the practice of regaining spiritual strength. So we have a physical body and we have a spiritual body. And the things that nourish the physical body do not nourish the spiritual body. Honestly, nothing nourishes the spiritual body except prayer and fasting. Okay, because nothing of this world can fulfill something that's not of this world, which is spirit. But even clarity in that, even having that clarity changed the game for me. So it's just further confirmation that the lack of clarity is what screws everything up. The lack of clarity is what gets us to rock bottom. The lack of clarity of who we are is why we get to the dark night phase, having to do the shadow work, because we've been functioning for so long with the wrong set of eyes, with the wrong pair of glasses on. Our clarity of who we thought we were was false. Lack of clarity has really done work and damage on many people. Now, that's not to say that when you get clarity, you automatically get put into a space of alignment with God, right? Because there are many people who have clarity who do very evil things. Okay. They know why they're doing it. They know who they're doing it for, what they're doing it for. They have clarity. But in regards to that, it's all about the intention of why you're doing what you're doing. Once you have clarity, where is this coming from? What are you doing this for? What is the purpose of it? What are you looking for the result to be? Is it going to hurt or is it going to help? You know, so I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, everybody who has clarity is great. That ain't it. That's not it. But if you are well-intentioned and, you know, wanting to help, wanting to grow, wanting to all of the great things, then clarity is the first step, because any action taken without clarity, you're going to have to circle right back around. For sure, for sure. You're going to have to circle right back around. All you were doing was what they say, spinning your wheels. You were moving, but you weren't moving in the right direction, right? So that is lack of clarity. That is the power that having a lack of clarity has on our life. And I guess I will announce this here. I'm going live on Instagram tomorrow. You probably see this well past that, but I've realized in the last few calls that I've had with people, it is the lack of clarity of why we even have the call in the first place. And I didn't have an offering for someone who just needed a kind of quick recalibration. So I'm offering 2-hour power calls. And the purpose of them is to help you get clarity and find out the blind spots, design a habit map. Okay. Our world is made up of habits. So what are your habits? What habits do you need to be able to fulfill? We look at clarity in your business. What are your spiritual gifts? How do we tie that into your purpose and your business and make it all merge together? How do you get the habit when we talk about health and you want to transform your body? What habits do you need to do? What do you need to change? Right? So we go into those things. And really the takeaway that everybody gets from the call is clarity in these different areas, and whatever other area, you know, you may feel you need help with. Right? With everything that has happened in the past 2 years, we are definitely, as a society, moved further away from each other. Yes, we have phone access, we have DM access, we have all that, but honestly speaking, we don't have true connection. And we didn't have it before, and now we're even worse off. So it's getting a little bit trickier to navigate clarity space if you can't connect with someone who can help you with that. So I'm offering 2-hour power calls. The link is below for that. And I'm interested in the comments below. Let me know a time that you didn't have clarity or you did have clarity and what change that made to your life. Okay. So I want to thank you for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one. All right. Take care.